Thank you.
He's a great filmmaker, a great artist, and a terrible drama queen.
Oh, yeah. I am Mexican.
So, my job tonight, if you've ever heard... How many of you have seen the Q&A with Guillermo before? OK, you know I've got the hardest job in the world tonight of keeping us to 90 minutes, so I'm going to do my best. We have some clips. Guillermo and I are going to chat. If time allows, we'll try and get some audience questions, but we might be up against it. But this is going to be a magical evening, unless I fuck up. Who knows? It's live.
Unless.
Unless.
And when?
Hey. Oh, you're terrible. He was saying earlier we're like Lauren Hardy of...
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. So, look, I wanted to start, because we've been having dialogues for a long time, and I wanted to sort of set the scene a little bit with your childhood in Mexico, growing up in Guadalajara.
Yeah.
And you made a great comment to me once when we were talking. You said that you made a pact with ghosts early on.
With monsters.
Monsters. So I just wondered if you could talk about that pact that you made with monsters,
yeah,
and how that began to feed into your love of cinema.
Well, we lived in a small house, and I was still sleeping on the crib, because the crib zipped up at night. And my brother and I was about 4 or 3, no more than that. And my brother and I stayed up when my parents went out and watched The Outer Limits. And there was an episode called The Mutant, where, the monster was Warren Oates with giant eyes. And I got so scared I lost my shit. And I started screaming, and my brother propped me in the crib, zipped it up, went away, and then came back. The motherfucker, God rest his soul, he came back with, in those years, in magic shops, they sold fake fried eggs made in plastic, and he put them on and put one of my mother's stockings and picked in the crib, and I peed all over the crib. And then I went to sleep so much. From that night on, I would see monsters in the bedroom. My room had a shaggy carpet, and it looked like there were green fingers waiting for me to get out of the crib to pull me down. And I would not go to the bathroom, which was at the end of a corridor, like in Devil's Backbone, for fear of something being at the end of the corridor. And I started peeing on my crib every night. And my mother said, "You're too old for that," and she would punish me, and she would make me help her wash the clothes. And one night I got up and I said to the monsters that I saw in the closet and all that, I said, "If you let me go pee, I'll be your friend forever." And this was said in earnest, and immediately something magical happened. I started, what my therapist says is reverse phobia. But basically, I bonded with them. I adored them, and I adore them to this day. Like, it's truly my spiritual place, creatures. And these figures are bonded to me in my Catholic imagination from the provinces in Mexico. They are fused with the saint, the hagiographies, the pageantry of Catholicism. Monte Cristo is a Catholic pageantry gothic movie. All of that fused, and that continued through my life.
And we're going to come, monsters are going to be a recurring theme. How did that feed into cinema? Because I know that going to the cinema with your family, you used to go with your father, and you said that you could only afford one snack. But that became a big part of your life early on. And
yeah.
I mean, it's like your obsession with cinema started around 8, and then you started to make films as well.
I was born in '64, so there were the big palaces of cinema. You had cinemas that sat 2,000 people, 3,000 seats. And we would come in. In Mexico, back then, at the snack shop, they would give you could buy tres leches cake. God bless Mexico. Tres leches cake, or you could have candied pine nuts, which were so exotic and expensive that my father said, if you have that, you can't have anything else. And to this day, I have a bag of pine nuts somewhere. All time, to get extravagant, I need a little bit of that. But it was the outing for the family. It was that or going to the wrestling matches. And I never went. My father never took me to... I would see my brother and him in the wrestling matches on TV, and they would say hi, and I would, why am I not there? But it was the entertainment for kids and family were those two things.
And when did you start discovering what would be your taste in cinema? Because you began to discover a very specific...
I'll tell you, there was my father won the lottery in '69, so I was 5 years old, right? We moved to another house in 1970 at 6. Before that, in the small house where I was raised, I was watching a program called the 24,000 pesos question, which I think there was a variance in pounds and in dollars. And I said to my father, I wanna enter that contest, and my theme will be Life and Times of Christopher Lee. So before 6 or 7, that was me. And there's recordings of me at age 4 or 5 saying, I want mandrake root for Christmas to do a ritual on witchcraft. So my mother took me to a psychologist, and he gave me a bar of plasticine, and he said, do whatever you want, and I'll come back. And I did a skeleton. So
I might just move my chair over.
No, there's something, I find it so benign and so beautiful, horror. I've always considered it fairy tales. I think that when people say, do you make horror films? I go, no, I'm not interested in making horror films. I'm interested in the mechanics and the iconography and the function. And then I go into genres and I do absolutely the opposite of the genre, but you recognize the genre. What do I mean by that? If I do a kaiju versus robot movie, I try to make the kaiju majestic. I try to make the robots on their last phase of repair. I don't want to represent one country. I want to represent all nations. So everything is subverted. Crimson Peak's an anti-romance, romantic, gothic romance. So, I like this idea that you can go and make something out of something else, completely the opposite function, following the same recognizable form.
And you went into filmmaking quite early because you were making Super 8 films.
With my Planet of the Apes figures, yeah.
And then you studied under Hermosillo, who's a filmmaker in Mexico I like very much. Then you made a couple of shorts, which are screening in the season, Donna Lupe and Geometria.
Dear Lord.
Yeah. But also, you had one of the first special effects companies, Necropia. Which...
Well, the first makeup effects company in the history, officially, because our slogan was, we're not good, but we're the only one.
Is that really?
We're not really good, but we're the only one. And what happened is, in the early 80s, I knew I was going to do Cronos.
Right.
But no one could do the effects. So I said, I'm going to create a makeup effects company. I'm going to grow it until I can make Cronos, and we are good enough that we can make Cronos, and then I'm going to close it. And that's exactly what I did.
Well, it's almost as if we've rehearsed. We have a clip of Cronos. And I should warn you, the clips tonight, they're going to make you squirm. They might make you cry. And one might make you shit your pants. And you can guess which does which. So if we could have the first clip number 1, Cronos.
If I don't stand up, you'll know what.
Yeah, don't start pissing yourself again, though, Guillermo.
Not again. Just so you imagine how much of a family and small operation we were, that's my company doing all the effects. The machine, I paid for the machine as proof that I could make the movie. It took 4 years for the Mexican Institute of Film to say yes to Cronos. I storyboarded myself the movie, showed it. They didn't want to greenlight it. The mechanisms on the machine were done by my father-in-law in his back garage workshop. I made that mold of the chest myself with gelatin and glycerin. My wife and my first wife and 2 people punched the hair. The rupture here happened. I wanted him to pull the device and then rip here, but they said, it's breaking. And I go, should. And that's where we go in there. We have no second chest in this movie. We were shooting in a factory that as we were shooting, they were demolishing behind us. So when I did the over and I turned around, this over was gone. So there was no chance for me to say, we're going to repeat this shot. Everything was done so precariously in this movie, but it was the one thing I was already good friends with Alfonso, with Emmanuel Lubezki and so forth, and I had a little bit amount of money, and they would say, make it for that, and I said, no, this has to look, I want movie sets. I want to have production design, I want to have the effects, I want this movie to look like a really good Hammer film, you know? And I waited and waited and waited, and the gears inside the machine were transported by me on a van that I sold to pay for the gears. And they were from a textile machine from the turn of the century. I didn't have gas enough to outrun a policeman on a traffic ticket that I ran a light, so I barely was able to escape. The tail of the insect inside the machine, I sculpted, I casted, and I mechanized. The filter in the thing, I casted, I sculpted, and I mechanized. So everything was done. So, but there was unwavering belief that it was important to speak about the genre in a new way. In a new way, what do I mean by that? I think my work with monsters is proselytist, is evangelic. I really believe that they can acquire a spiritual dimension that sort of have the healing power of fairy tales and fables. So when the movie connects with you, it kind of heals you. Why do I do this? Because that's how I related to horror. The moment Boris Karloff crosses the threshold, I was healed. I was healed like St. Paul on the road to Damascus. I fell down transfixed. So I said my view of the horror genre is spiritual and religious and profoundly poetic. And I don't care if I do one movie or do 3 movies. Every movie until Shape of Water, I think, or at least Pan's Labyrinth, I thought it was going to be the last movie.
Yeah, I remember you saying to me that you thought Cronos would be like your last
The
film.
only movie.
So you put everything in it. And there are, I mean, Cronos to me was a seismic moment because it instigated in me a lifelong obsession with Mexican cinema. I mean, I think I've told you I saw it,
Yeah.
and kept seeing it. And I'd never seen anything like it. But the thing that impressed me most was I don't think I'd seen a horror film where you had a child protagonist, and there's often child protagonists in your film, where you subject them to danger.
Yeah.
A lot of films, they take them away from the danger. You don't. You show them danger. Why?
I was a kid in Mexico. I was never shielded from danger. In fact, my parents, I would be taken away by social services if people knew. But let me give you another thing. You know why it's called Cronos? It was called La Invención de Cronos, the Cronos device. And in the storyboards and posters that I designed, it was called the Cronos device, which was a great title. But the person that did the typography charged by the letter. And I could only afford Cronos.
But I mean, the reason when you said it might be the only thing that you do, I still think that. How many people have seen Cronos, by the way? Okay, because I should
Now
say.
you've seen a piece.
Because it's been Guillermo restored it and it's been reissued by the BFI. It's in cinemas. It's on high definition Blu-ray, and you can also head over to BFI Player and watch it. It's a film I still love, and I watch it probably once a month. But that obsession with clockwork and mechanisms, that's in all of. I mean, everything that's in Cronos, in some way, you return to.
Oh, absolutely. Later. I mean, I think that you paint one tree all your life. That's what Renoir said to his son, the filmmaker. He said, "You paint one tree all your life, but you have so many angles, you have so many ways of rephrasing the same song, that it becomes eternal for you. I think you're born with one song in your heart, one, and then you modulate it until you supposedly get it perfect or you croak. But I think that the beautiful thing about Cronos, when I was restoring it and I was color correcting it, I saw what I was trying to do, and I saw those gestures done later in a better way. When I wrote a book about Hitchcock, I saw him try things in his English period that he would get right in the American period. The chase through the moors with the little flying machine is, of course, North by Northwest. You know, the museum shot with the hanging in front of the impassive face of the Egyptian god is Mount Rushmore. You can see all these threads, and the more you know a filmmaker, the more you realize what they were trying. And the thing that this has that is very Mexican is this will to not be shy of combining whatever tone you need. But the extraordinary thing is to do it at that age and control the tone. I don't know how the hell that happened. Because tonally, you have a vampire film, you have a middle-class melodrama, you have a little bit of comedy, and you have the embalmer scene, which is funny, and yet it feels of a piece. I would like to have a time machine and tell that young whippersnapper, stay on it.
But it's also a political film because it's about the vampiric relationship between Mexico and the US. I mean, all the street signs are in English in Cronos.
And Russian and Chinese. Yeah. It was the beginning of the NAFTA. And what I wanted 2 American cartoonish villains in exchange for all the Mexican cartoonish villains they had done to us. And I wanted it to be about the greed of eternal life in a senseless way, which is still on Frankenstein, on the character of Harlander. Same greed, same sort of, it has no measure. When I hear about people being billionaires or even going in whatever triple digits on the millions, you don't realize, what do you want to do? You occupy the same space. You eat the same amount. You move through space like me. Why do you want that? What is broken inside you? And I think life is the same. I think love, life, the things that are valued are great because they end. They go away. So you're lucky you had them. And I wanted to articulate that, and I think I articulated, in my opinion, much better in Frankenstein. But it's the same theme, and themes that are in Devil's Backbone and so forth.
Well, there's lots there to unpick. We're going to return to some of it. I think it would be lovely if we can have our second clip. And our second clip is from...
Is this the one where I shit myself?
No, not this one. That's the one after this one. The next clip we can have is clip number 2, Hellboy, please. Love that.
That's a little bit of clockwork right there.
So I remember going to see Hellboy,
Yeah.
and I came out of the screening, went straight back down to the ticket desk, one ticket for Hellboy, and went back. It's a film that I'm obsessed. I think it's such a great film, and I do have a theory. No Batman Begins without Hellboy. I think hiring artists to make adaptations like this was a game changer.
Well, to me, what I wanted to do was an homage to the pulps and what is pulp and Mignola. But every movie I do, unfortunately, is autobiographical. So I wanted to talk about myself, how I felt, and how choice, destiny is choice. Like you choose who you are, no matter where you're born, how you're born, what people tell you can or cannot do. You can choose to believe something else, and that's a jewel of a possibility. And when I started my career, if you can call it that, is a lot of people didn't believe that Mexican directors should direct anything but Mexican thing. I think that in the first world, if you come from any ethnicity, they like it when you talk about your oppression. They don't like it when you talk about your joy. They're afraid of your fucking joy and the capacity you have to be a well-cultured, well-read, all-rounded intellectual. They find it shocking. How do you know that book? What the fuck do you know that book? I read it. What did you do? You bought the rights. So it's extremely...
Would you fancy becoming Prime Minister?
No, what happens is when Guillermo Navarro first, we went to, after Cronos, we went looking for an agent. Navarro entered an agency, and the guy said to him, and Navarro would later win the first Oscar in the history of Mexico for cinematography. He said, "Why do I want a Mexican if I already have a gardener?" And I went through Hell on Mimic and all that, and Hellboy, I did Devil's Backbone, and I did Blade too to prove that I could do Hellboy. My agent said, "You want to do Hellboy? I do Blade too." I said, "Okay." I always take the long road to things, But I so wanted to declare that the exuberance of Mexican imagination could combine into something that is something as American as a comic book genre. So there's a lot of Mexican melodrama on Hellboy. There's a lot of madness. There's a lot of things like that. So it's an exuberant little movie, and it was done for much less money than it would have been done in another way. Mexican ingenuity is still there.
Yeah, I mean, I love Hellboy. Tell me about Ron Perlman. I'm slightly obsessed with Ron Perlman. I always thought
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought that if they made a film about Tom Waits, Ron Perlman should play
the father.
Yeah. You know, because obviously you work with him on Cronos. He's been quite a regular presence in your films. Blade 2.
He's coming on the next movie, and the stop motion, very giant.
Don't jump ahead, Guillermo. What did I say before? Don't jump ahead. But
Eyes down.
Yeah. So tell us about Ron, because he's such a brilliant, charismatic performer for you, I think.
Well, I admired him because his range was, to me, unlimited. He could play Salvatore in Name of the Rose.
Yeah.
And he could play Vincent on the TV series of Beauty and the Beast. You know, I thought this guy, and he was a Neanderthal in Quest for Fire. I really found him incredibly compelling as an actor. And I invited him to dinner to offer him the part. And I have no money, so I ordered dessert only. And he ordered the full menu, and I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna pay for this? But we talked all night, and I convinced him somewhat. I sent him a letter, and he loved the letter. He came to Mexico. Just so you understand, in the middle of whenever we would finish a day, Ron said, can I have another one? I said, no, we got it. And he would say, oh, just another one. I said, we're out. I said, out of what? Out of film. We don't have film until Monday. Like, we were so precarious, and we ran out of money to pay Ron. So I went to him and I said what I thought was a perfectly reasonable thing. I said, you have my word as a gentleman that I will pay your money, every cent of it, but stay. His agent had a conversation with him, and Ron stayed. In spite of his agent saying, you're coming back to LA right now. This is a Mexican production of a first-time director, and we paid every cent. And I said to him, I'm going to write something really good for you. And I wrote Hellboy for him. And we went 8 years almost, where everybody would say, we'll do it without Ron Perlman. And I would say, then you're not making my movie.
Tell me about Mike Mignola. You met a friend of mine tonight who's written some of the Hellboy comics. Because the other thing I love about you is you love high culture, you love low culture. I don't believe there's such a high thing as there's just culture.
It's either something makes you find an emotion or it doesn't. And I think the point of art is mystery, emotion, and spirituality. If you get those three things from whatever you get them from, that serves you.
But I mean, we're going to talk a bit about Gothic literature later, but I know that you love literature, pulp literature. Your wife, Kim Morgan, who wrote Nightmare Alley, is a big pulp fan, who's here tonight. Round of applause for Kim Morgan. Very great writer. You just tell me about the Mignola comics and what drew you to that character of Hellboy. He's a very Guillermo character, I think.
Yeah, well, I knew exactly what Mike had read to do Hellboy. I knew exactly what books he had read. So the first time we met, I said, you read this and that. You read Bernard Herwood. You read Dom Agustin Calmet. You read. I gave him the pulp. I said Dennis Wheatley, so on and so forth. And he knew I knew my stuff. And we are twin souls up to a point. Like Mike and I are 90% the same guy, and the 10% is a razor blade that cuts very deep. Like we disagree on that 10%, and it makes us both a little mad, but we have an immense love for each other. I adore that guy, and I revere him. I think he's a comic god. For me, he's in the pantheon of the top 5, Jack Kirby, Bernie Wrightson, Richard Corbin, Mike Mignola, and a few others, but that he's right up there. His layout in comic book pages is bar none, as good as anyone. And he knows I admire and know him, but the Hellboy in the movie is not the Hellboy in the comics. And for example, he goes nuts. You want to make Mike Mignola angry? tell him that you like the Samaritan, the gun, the Hellboy. He says, that's not called the Samaritan, you know. But we blended. And I had an idea on the first Hellboy that he hated. He hated it so much, I said, I will not do it, but you got to give me 3 pages, 3 original pages from the comic book The Corpse, which is the best thing he's ever done. And it was when they finished the ritual, the Nazi ritual, right? They said, well, nothing happened, and they would step out of the cathedral, and there was a 20-story high black crib creaking in the wind, and Hellboy was inside, and I said, no! So I have 3 pages of The Corpse, and it's out of the movie.
I mean, one of the other reasons I like that clip, I mean, all the clips I've tried to pick, I've tried to illustrate things that I think that you come back to. And there's the line, you killed my father, your ass is mine.
Yeah.
Your films very much look at the relationship between parents and their children, whether it's real parents, surrogate parents. It's a real something that you return to in a very moving way. Can you say something about why that's?
Well, I think that all of my life I thought my father was the mystery in my life, and I became a father while behaving like a son, which is a big tactical mistake in life. You should realize when you're a father, you're a father. You become that, and you should cease to be the son of someone. It's not in your cards to get that. And I tried to decipher my dad. We went through the kidnapping of my dad in '98 for 72 days. I thought he was going to come back, and we were going to run through lily fields holding hands and telling each other every dream. It didn't happen. And eventually my dad passed away after Shape of Water, and I realized when my mother passed away on Pinocchio, I realized the real mystery in my life was my mother. So I'm trying to solve my life through my movies. You know, every movie, the Frankenstein is the mystery of the father and the mother, and it's things I'm questioning in my life. The way I write the movies is I try to write them about what I'm feeling as a human being in that project. Blade 2, the relationship with Nomak and his father is a rehearsal of Frankenstein. But I think that these are universal themes and universal mysteries.
And is it cathartic for you to work out these issues?
Well, at least you're aware. You become aware. I think that when you're born as a baby, your mother is an ocean. You swim in her. You dive, you sink in her. And your father is the rocks in the shore. He grabs you and says, enough of that. And it structures in a way that is very violent. And then at that age, those 2 mysteries become totemic. So even though the father is a regular guy, for your mammalian brain, it's something undecipherable. So I try to provide not answers, but I try to provide questions in my movies that are touching and deep and completely genuine. The reason I've been able to do this for 30 years is that I was able to become an acquired taste. And people showed up to the movies, and people that I had a plan. I did have a plan. I said, I'm going to make movies for 10-year-olds, and the 10-year-old in me, and those 10-year-olds are going to grow to be 30, and they're going to keep looking at the movies that I do for 30-year-olds. And so Hellboy was me doing a Harryhausen movie for a 10-year-old somewhere that would come back and see Shape of Water. It's not a commercial plan, it's a spiritual indoctrination plan. And I think the only reason people stick with you is if you're true. And that I am. 100% what you see is me.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a bit later on about your collaborators who would say very, very nice things about you because people love you. But I'm also interested in Hellboy because we've spoken a little bit about monsters. In the next clip, the next 2 clips actually, we're going to speak a bit more. But one of my favourite of your creations is Cronos, who's also known as the Freak.
Yeah, which is very different from the comic.
I mean, he's really repellent.
In the comic, what he is fantastically like a little bureaucrat, but looks like that. And this is a rehearsal, and the white skin with marble textures in Cronos that we saw briefly, that's a rehearsal for the makeup of Frankenstein. You know, and Cronos is a rehearsal when he doesn't have all the garb, is Frankenstein. he's pieced together from different parts, and he's all and to me, I always want a character that, the Tao says all pain comes from desire, right? When you want something, you will ache. If you don't want anything, you're free of pain, And I find appetites, of course, very puzzling when they are material, like money, power, all these secondary gains that seem to be really powerful. They're the weakest nutrients. And I thought, this is a character that represents fascism and Nazism in a way that is the perversity of keep changing yourself until you're happy with the way you look. And unfortunately, the way you look is that. He's trying to get rid of his lips because they are not well done. He's rid of his eyelids. And I thought, this is a very compulsive character. But he listens to opera in a little phonograph.
Yeah.
It's a construction that had nothing to do with the Cronin in the book. And he has the vanity of different masks.
I mean, I find him terrifying every time I see him. The other thing something else that you said when you received your fellowship actually was you've never made a film that you wouldn't die for.
Yeah.
You don't go in half-mast. So if you're going to do
Never.
something,
Never.
And I love the fact that you would, and I don't see either, but you don't see any difference between a Pan's Labyrinth and a Blade 2.
No,
for you,
not at
they're all
all.
the same craft.
Absolutely. I mean, Blade 2, I would not have taken. I went in and I said, I want to make a father and son story with the villains. I'm going to make the movie as if the villain is the hero. I said, and Wesley, you make Blade the hero. I'll shoot you like a god. I'll make amazing fight scenes. But me, I'm making the movie for the villain. It's like Crimson Peak. I made it for the character of Jessica Chastain. She's, for me, the lead reason to make that movie. Mako Mori on Pacific Rim. That's the lead character for me, not Charlie Hunnam. It's her. That's the story that I want to tell. We build these giant robots of a persona, and inside there is us, and inside us there's a little afraid girl controlling that massive machine. Like inside of this character we call Guillermo del Toro, there's that little kid in the crib, and inside that little kid in the crib there's something even more frail, controlling this machine that moves around. So, to me, that's the key to that.
I'm going to give a shout out because you've mentioned some films there that we haven't got clips from tonight. But I think Pacific Rim and Crimson Peak are two of your films, and Nightmare Alley, actually, that are massively underrated. Yeah. And you're going to have the opportunity to see those films this weekend. So
by the way, if you have not seen Pacific Rim 3D on IMAX, which is the way it plays tomorrow, you have not seen it. It's fucking nuts, as they say in England.
But also, I mean, with Crimson Peak, Crimson Peak, I think, was misread by people because they read it as a horror, and it's not
marketed.
A horror.
It was marketed as a horror.
Yeah, it's a gothic.
I was saying the key to the film is a gothic romance. Is Jane Eyre. Is Bluebeard's wife. Is the woman trapped in the house of horrors. And being in love with a killer. And the difference is the killer, even although he is the killer, even although he tries to poison her, he loves her, which is very Mexican.
But also, I mean, have any of you seen the black and white version of Nightmare Alley?
If you haven't, This is the chance. Kim and I prefer it and adore it.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's an incredible film. Do not miss this opportunity. The Del Toro season is running all the way to the end of the month and Guillermo's going to be here a lot this weekend, so we're blessed. We're going to move on to another clip now, and this is the shit your pants clip, so brace yourselves. If we could have clip 3, please, which is Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah. That this movie, I thought, like Cronos, it was going to be my last movie. I swore it would be, I thought there's no more future for me.
And why?
It was extremely hard to get movies made the way I wanted. I turned down everything that people would offer to me. I would turn down because I said, look, you cannot feign. You can feign you love someone, but on the honeymoon, you can feign. You cannot marry a movie and not love it. You can't. So to me, is a religious calling. I cannot pretend that I like a movie, and they offered me this superhero or that superhero after after the Hellboys, and Blade, and I said, I don't want to do that guy. He's a boring guy. I don't understand it, and my agents were tearing their hair, and the things. I have written about 40 screenplays, Jason. I made 13 movies, so 27 movies are unmade. And I felt, well, they don't want my Monte Cristo, they don't want Mountains of Madness, they don't want
That's Lovecraft.
Pinocchio. Yeah, they don't want any of the things I want to do. I'm going to do this final movie and get the fuck out of Dodge. And I was despondent also. What I do doesn't count. And I said, well, if a flower blooms in the forest because I existed, that's the story of the little girl. And that's the story I want to tell. And out came the movie that kept me employed, I guess.
Which your friend Mark Commode says is the greatest horror film of all time. Now, there's a number of things in that clip that I love. And we were talking earlier about Mike Mignola. You spoke a little bit about Hitchcock. I love the fact that this film is obviously so influenced by symbolist and proto-symbolist painters. I just wondered if you could say something about that.
Yeah, Carlos Schwab, Odilon Redon with the feathers with eyes, the Feliciano Robs, but also Golden Age illustrators like Arthur Rackham and Edmond Dulac. I think that my audiovisual language goes well beyond movies, well beyond comic books, well beyond. I am a studious man about painting schools, architecture, set design. I want to be very articulate when I'm explaining what I want, and I want to be able to doodle the essence of a set when I do that. So this movie was made for the exact same budget that Shape of Water, 19.5 million. But I wanted it to look like it was 70, I hate to say it like this, but it can be done because I'm Mexican, I'm scrappy, and I can say, well, I only need this wall. That corridor they run through is so short. They run the same section 4 times. The 4 times, my DP Guillermo was saying, do you think people will notice it? If they notice, we're in trouble. But they run the same 3 columns over and over again because we only have this much. And you have to be unafraid of that. And then it became a movie where I said, I'm going to do exactly what I want. By that time, I had consumed mushrooms, by the way. Right. So I was a different man. I've only did it a few times.
But I mean, again, you have the child protagonist again. And the other thing running through your films, which I think sometimes gets missed, is the political aspect of them. And I mean political.
They're one and the same.
Yeah.
They're one and the same. There's two, just like in horror, there are 2 types of horror, repressive and liberating. There's the anarchic horror that goes against all the structure, and the horror that tells you, be a good boy, don't have sex with other teenagers, or the boogeyman will get you, which is repressive. Don't go out at night, don't go into the forest. The don't horror, right? And the go crazy horror. Those are 2, like Sam Raimi, Evil Dead 2, go crazy horror, right? Halloween, masterpiece, but repressive horror in so many ways, right? Clamping, the Thing, crazy horror, amazing. So, fairy tales are the same. They're the fairy tales that say, obey your parents, be a good boy, which I hate, and the fairy tales that hint all the Jungian proportions of the myth, that this is one of those, and that those are political, because they go against the structure. They go against the king. They go against the knight. They go against the prince in a way, And this, I wanted, the will I had as an artist or as a creator, a storyteller, is the will of a little girl that is told she cannot be what she wants to be. And you are facing a structure that is represented by people that believe they are, if they put a uniform, they are unified. If they say a lie over and over again, it becomes truth. People that believe in imaginary shit like borders and race and gender and color and these things that separate only when you believe them as imaginary tales. And a girl that has a certainty of imagination that comes from her very core. This is the way I see the world. And I tell you one thing, I felt the girl should win.
But I mean, you deal with 2 of the darkest moments in history, in our civilization.
Yeah.
Nazism in Hellboy and fascism in
Pinocchio, in Pan's Labyrinth, in Devil's Backbone. Yes, because to me, the way that structures It's a male culture only in a way that is a daddy's boy male culture. You know, it's so sad to have people that are emotionally stunted be able to be the most savage. You know, you have man children ruling the world right now, and they are in a tantrum because other people that are not them exist, and they can't fucking take it. You know, and you know, when if they got away with what they want and they killed all of us, you know what would make them angry? The fucking mirror. The mirror will make them see something really repugnant. And that I do, by the way, in The Captain with the mirror, I do that exact thing.
In the scene where with the...
Such his wound.
Yeah.
No, the movie was...
That's Sergi Lopez, isn't he? He's a great actor.
A great actor, but Sergi Lopez, when I was putting Pan's Labyrinth together, he was known as a comedic actor in Spain. It's like casting Tom Hanks as a fascist commander. It was not exactly... And a producer in Spain took me to dinner and said, don't hire Maribel Verdú, don't hire Sergi Lopez. You don't know these things because you're Mexican. We here in Spain, we know he's a comedy actor. He's a light touch. And she, you know, she had her moment, but it's over. And I said, well, maybe I don't know these things because I'm Mexican, but that's why I'm going to do them.
Do you enjoy proving people wrong?
It's not that. People, you don't prove people wrong.
I mean, more, let me rephrase it. You have the courage of your convictions, and they're
well,
often right.
that's all you have.
Yeah.
That's all you have. I mean, art, if it feels wrong, it is wrong. And it feels right no matter what people are shouting is right. You know, the problem is to carry on when it feels wrong. And you can give yourself all the reasons, and those gestures or those movies fail. You know, something goes wrong. But the movies, this film felt so urgent. Now we are releasing it in October, 4K, and in some instances 3D. And I think, unfortunately, it feels urgent now.
Yeah.
I wish it didn't.
It's playing in Cannes next week.
In Cannes next week,
Cannes
yeah.
Classics, yeah.
And this movie was so hard. It took 8 years to make Hellboy, because and it took so many. We went through every distributor with this movie, and they all said no. They said the girl should not be shot at the end. There should not be violence, and it should be made in English. And I said, well, thank you for your time. Goodbye. Every single person but one, Bob Burney at Picture House, which was New Line, is the only one that said, I'll do it. It sounds like a great idea. And I'll tell you, the thing that makes the movie unmakeable is the thing that will make it memorable. You know, is the thing that they say, don't do it, that's the reason to do it. If you believe it is the reason, and I said, I'd rather not make this last movie than to make it the wrong way. But just the change of language, they said, do it in English, same movie. And I said, it can't be in English. If it could, it would. I would do it gladly.
Talk to us about Doug Jones. I mean, sorry, I like to ask, how many of you, has anyone here not seen Pan's Labyrinth?
You bastard.
Yeah. You're doing a Q&A for Pan's Labyrinth, aren't you?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So, yeah, you must see Pan's Labyrinth, and on the biggest screen possible. Talk to us about Doug Jones, because even massive Guillermo del Toro fans may not necessarily know about Doug Jones.
I started working with Doug in 1996 on Mimic. He played one of the Roach men. And I kept his card, and then we were doing Abe Sapien for Hellboy with another actor, but he was not moving the right way. And I remembered his card, because it was a goofy card. It had a cartoon of himself, and I said, this is the ugliest card I've ever seen. But I kept it, so...
You're a fellow, you can swear as much as you want. If
you
were going to say motherfucker, you could say motherfucker.
We called him. We called him, and he came, and we redid Abe Sapien for him, because he has a grace, you know? And then I said to him, you have to play the faun and the pale man, because the pale man is the faun. I said, the pale man, each of the tests of Ophelia is the faun, testing her. He takes the personality of the frog, he takes the personality of the pale man, but it's him. It's like it's a gesture, it's a trickster. you know? He's trying to trick Ophelia into obeying, you know, because disobedience is will, and will is intelligence, and intelligence is self, and that's what they want to take away. It's not artificial intelligence. They want to create natural stupidity. That's the trick. You don't call it what it isn't. What they want you is to stop thinking, you know, and disobedience is a virtue. You know, that's the difference in fairy tales. The fairy tales that tell you obedience is a virtue, those are the bad fairy tales. The ones where you disobey, that's the virtue. So I said to Doug, you have to play both parts. And he had to play the faun backwards in Spanish and saying the lines backwards. And the pale man, he had to go through hours and hours of makeup, and that is a creature that evolved from one concept to another. It was originally going to be a wooden mannequin with drawers. Then each drawer, something would come out, and he had two hands on a plate and would put the hands like Cronos does on Hellboy. And what I wanted to do was make it mean something, make it mean, it became the church little by little. And I said, well, let's make him hungry, eternally hungry, but perversely, he has a banquet and he doesn't touch it. He wants the skin of the innocent to eat. So it became a symbol of something more powerful, and we did this skeletal thing with hanging skin, but he had the face of an old man. And I saw a photo of a manta ray, and I saw the little nostrils and the little mouth, and I said, that's the scariest thing I've ever seen. I said, erase the face on the clay and make it flat. And the makeup effects guys wanted to kill me. And they said, you don't give a fuck about our work? I said, you are right, I don't give a fuck. I said, but you will thank me one day. And then the stigmata with the eyes, and then I remembered a poster for Phantasm, where the girl was screaming, and you could see the eyes through the transparent hands, and I said, oh, he can do that. And that is the day, this is interesting. It was so hard to make this movie. Everything went wrong. Most everybody in the crew, 90% of the crew thought I was deranged. They said, he's making a Civil War movie with these fucking things walking around. And they would want to leave early. They didn't want to be there. And the day the Pale Man did that, the entire set went, and I went, hey, we're onto something.
For people that like the Pale Man, I urge you to visit our Rubin Library, where we have a whole Guillermo del Toro display and books. And in our bookshop, we also have a little homage to Guillermo, which revolves around the Pale Man. So you should check those out. I want to ask you one more thing about...
And it's Saturn devouring his sons and all that.
Yeah. I could ask you more about other actors, but I want to actually read you something. I mean, I want you to talk in a minute about your sketchbooks.
Yeah.
Of which I have one here. But this is the forward to the one of the sketchbooks, and it's written by James Cameron. And I love this quote. The artifact you hold in your hands is an unprecedented portal into the clockworks of a wondrous mind. Guillermo del Toro's notebooks have been compared to the codices of Da Vinci for good reason. Both are representations of the creative process of a genius, unique in his time, you're going to get so big-headed, and perhaps in all time. There is no one out there on the film landscape to even compare him to. And in fact, describing him merely as a filmmaker is far too limiting. And it's true, because, you know, the Necropia work, the drawings, the paintings, the bleak house. Yeah. I mean, if you ever want to see amazing artwork, look at this. Okay. Could you say something about the role of the sketchbooks and the notebooks? Because they're a real kind of obsession for you.
It started in a screenwriting school. My teacher said, look, there was this guy called Ben Hecht that came from reporting on newspapers, and people like Fatio Ern was a reporter before he became a fabulist. Mark Twain wrote, you know, and he said all of them kept sketchbooks. You know, they wrote what they saw on the street, they did a sketch, whatever. And I started keeping notebooks, and I recorded on a tape recorder, and I transcribed it, and that started to include more and more drawings. And they became more like illustrated thoughts, and I started to use watercolors and acrylics, and, you know, when I started the sketchbooks, I had only 4 colored pencils. And I would combine the colors to make purple. I would do a little shade of blue and a little shade of red, and I graduated them, and then eventually I got a full set of colors. These notebooks are now, one of them, I think Jim wrote that out of guilt, because one of them I gave to him in a drunken stupor, and he lost it.
Right, okay.
The one before Cronos, he lost it. And we've been like brothers since we met, the first day we met. And I kept doing it. I keep doing it. In The Hobbit, I slowed down doing it because there was a huge NDA from Warner Brothers.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Where they said, if you lose that fucking sketchbook, you'll be done. And I slowed down drawing. So now I do a few notes per movie, and I do the pre-production process with 6 or 7 artists.
Okay, we're actually doing okay for time. We've got 2 clips left. So if we could have clip number 4, please, which is The Shape of Water. Thank you. It's a great clip. Now, we first met when I was interviewing you for a couple of books I wrote on Mexican cinema a long time ago. And one of the quotes you gave me, which I used in the programme notes, and the season, by the way, is created by me, but also with the great Justin Johnson. So a round of applause for Justin for that.
My stunt double.
Your stunt double. And this is what you said to me at the time, which I've used to always describe the way you approach depicting the monstrous. Never fear the dead, fear the living, for they are the real danger.
Fuck yeah.
It's great, yeah? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, no, but because look at that clip. I mean, one of the first things I wanted to do is I want to do the creature from the Black Lagoon, but when the creature carries the girl into the water, it's not a horror image. It's actually salvation. And I want to make the bad guy look like the hero in those American movies. Straight and strapping and certain. And he's a horrible human being.
Yeah.
You know, because I said, can I flip it? Again, every movie I grab, I say, can I make it recognizable as what it is, but completely reverse of what it is? You know? And this is, again, something very contrarian and very Mexican in a way. You know, we don't believe in the institutions. We don't, because they're so corrupt. You know, but it really, to me, what is painful about that is when you talk about real horror in life, when I talked about my father, about his time in the kidnapping, which was 72 days kept captive. When you talk about the way evil is done, it's done in a really even-handed, loose-handed way. It's like, oh, yeah, you know, the way he talks to the creature and tortures the creature is Monday for him. It's Tuesday. That's his job.
Yeah.
And what we're going through right now is the dehumanization of all of us, not the good guys and the bad guys, all of us. We're being slowly dehumanized. They're making us get used to screaming, images of people beating each other. You may not realize it, but they make you cheer for a bully getting it, or a Karen, or whatever name they give something that you should not permit to make you emotionally null. And at one point, they can tell you there are them and us, and their screams will be the worst fucking noise you've ever heard. And that is where we're heading. It's horrible, and it's perverse and pervasive and slow, and I swear to God you don't realize you're being indoctrinated. And we're heading to a point in our lives when whatever the fuck is standing in a world destroyed, whatever is standing in 2 legs will not be human. Will be whatever it is biological, but it will not be one of us in this place here. And I happen to believe that the only way to discuss these things without clamping into 2 sides is to do it through fables, through parables. Because then we're talking about a fishman and a deaf-mute woman, and we talk about things that can be absolutes and we can identify with them. But again, I am Sally, I am the creature, and I'm blessed with having found Sally and Doc Jones, who plays the faun, the pale man, Abe Sapien, and plays the creature. But I wrote it for Sally, because I saw Sally on Happy Go Lucky, and Mike Lee, and I thought, it's the most amazing star I've ever seen. And I got to write her a movie, a whole movie, because she's alive. And 2 or 3 times in my life it has happened. It happened on Nightmare Alley. It happened on Frankenstein and it happened on Shape of Water, that I'm seeing a take and I'm actually watching a movie. And I go, oh, a cut. And Sally does that to me. I was watching her and she is completely there.
I mean, I think that everyone, I might be wrong, but I think the perception is you're a great visual storyteller. I think that the work that you do with actors is massively undervalued. I love the way you take actors like Doug Jones, but also Luke Goss, who you described. You remind me of Nick Rogue, you know, when Nick Rogue used to cast these people that weren't. But in this film, you also, I think, work with some, you know, Richard Jenkins, Michael Shannon, Octavia Spencer. You've got great performances.
Jessica,
and actors love you. I mean, they absolutely love you.
I love actors. That's the tragedy in my life. I adore them. And the thing is, when I was doing Blade 2, they were pushing a lot of actors on me for Nomak, and I say, it's Luke Goss. And the press in the UK was not kind when I cast Luke Goss. And the people at New Line said, well, we're getting these reactions from the UK. And I said, trust me, because you cast to the essence.
Yeah.
You know, you cast, it doesn't matter if Sergio Lopez is a comedian. He's not. He's a comedian until now. Ron Perlman is not a leading man until now. You know, you have to have the certainty that you say, oh, no, I'll make a $19.5 million movie with Sally Hawkins and a dancing fishman, and it will reach some audience. I don't know how many, but some. And the other day, I had a fight for a movie, because I still fight for the movies I want to make, and they said, we want a large audience, and I said, and I want the right audience. You know, and you know, if you want to do things that you believe in, it's never going to get easy. When it gets easy, that's a bad warning sign. You must have whored out at some point to the wrong bidder. You're like, hello, honey, you're doomed. You're gonna really destroy your principles. It should always be harder. And if you have a X budget, you have to say, okay, oh yeah, I'm gonna make it look twice that. Like, I think that our work as artists is to protect each other as humans and as artists, and protect each other by doing things the hard way, not the easy way. That's why I don't believe in any of this bullshit about apps, you know, or things being easier. They're not easier, and they want to sell you crap. You know, fast food is bad food. Slow food is fucking great. You take your time, do it the wrong way, fry the rice, then put the tomato, and it'll be much, much better. You know, so I cook slowly.
I mean, the other thing that was really, I remember seeing Shape of Water at I always used to get excited seeing it, I still do. You know, when I knew I was going to see your film, and I had a feeling that The Shape of Water was going to be the game changer for you. And the reason I think it's a game changer, it won every award going, which was great. But it also legitimised horror as a genre. I think the last horror film to win Best Picture before The Shape of Water, I think, was Silence of the Lambs. I mean, horror is a genre, and you've campaigned for horror, supernatural, gothic. You've campaigned for animation and stop-motion animation. But I think...
And I still do.
And you still do?
That's the next movie, stop motion.
You're jumping ahead again, Guillermo. I've asked you...
Face down, eyes
This is
eyes
the
down.
second time. Don't let there be a third.
I'll like you back to
But, you know, it
to the moon, Alice.
Yeah, it legitimised horror, didn't it? And
Well, you know, look, we all stand in the shoulders of George Romero, Dario Argento, David Cronenberg, and John Carpenter. These are the four musketeers that said, it's art. Guess what? It's art of some kind. So without those four, you have no models. There's no role models. But those four were the most important filmmakers in the genre. Cronenberg, capable of exploring his own imperfections, capable of discussing philosophy, capable of making The Fly a heartbreaking work of staggering beauty.
Correct.
You know, Romero, no more acid than Robert Altman about American society. Carpenter, the Hawksian, driest filmmaker, and Dario Argento, whatever he was on the first 15 years, I want a little of that. You know, it is really the explosion of that. Argento takes all the heritage of Mario Bava and combines it with the ferocity of Antonioni and the new wave of Italian cinema, and comes out with fairy tale horror like Suspiria. Magic. So, you feel, okay, what can I do that helps? And now the term is elevated horror.
Yeah.
Now it exists and all that, but without those men, without those pioneers, you don't have it.
You'll be pleased to know, if there are fans of Cronenberg in the audience, that we are going to be doing the Cronenberg season. So you've heard it here first. Time is beginning to catch up with us, but we're doing okay.
No more clips.
No, there's one more clip, because we've got to show Frankenstein.
All right,
Come
you
on.
got it.
So if we can have clip 5, the final clip of the evening, please, which is Frankenstein.
Can we stay longer?
Yeah, we've got a bit longer. Oh, and by the way, before we have the clip, let's give a round of applause to our projectionists. Okay, get on with it.
The line that got cut out in the clip is that horrible, horrible will, which is the line that John Hurt uses to describe Cronin on Hellboy.
That's right.
Yeah, he's alive by his horrible, horrible will.
I love the way that we're kind of coming to the end, and as you mentioned, we've gone back to the beginning. When you mention the makeup in Cronos and you see Jacob Elordi, I mean, it's.
I mean, to me, this movie states a profound thing, and having it made was monumental in so many ways. It creates a void. Also, it creates a thing. But the thing that is very moving is the declaration of principle. We have an entire world pushing us to be richer, handsomer, younger, more successful. If you only betray the people that are by your side, the people that need you, the people that are in positions that are not of power, we will give you all of this. And my proposition is simple: let's us be monsters together. Can we all be fucked up people trying to get along? And that's what he wants. That's why I made it a companion. I didn't want him to say, make me a woman. I wanted to understand that his essential plea was for companionship. And when he says, to you I am of sin, but to myself I simply am, that's who we are. That's who we are. And we are in a neo-prudishness that is extremely dangerous, because it's very addictive to exert it. It cleanses you, makes you feel righteous and good, but destroys the bonds of humanity. My proposal is that let's enshrine imperfection. Let's enshrine our defects and allow ourselves to fuck up over and over until at some point, by a miracle, we get it right. And we can move past the adolescent phase of our society into what may be one day adulthood, but instead we're regressing. We're acting up. We're in a tantrum culture.
I don't think you're cheering us up very much tonight, Gary. No, this is why you're such you see the way things are and you say them. I do want to ask about.
Salud.
I mean, this was obviously a passion project for you, to bring Frankenstein to the screen.
Yeah, since I was 11.
Yeah. So how did it feel? Well, let's start with Shelley and the Gothic tradition, and let's start with the kind of Sisyphean task of getting that stone up the hill and getting it made.
Well, everybody said no. 50 years I wanted to make it, and for 25 years everybody professionally said no. I started to articulate it in the early 2000s with Scott Stewart, which stays as producer, and I always said, it's a he said, she said, it's a father and son. It's an answer, can we see the same tale first the way we always see it, and then the second time we see it through the eyes of other, which I think is essential. If you follow someone that you don't like for 2 days, you'll understand that they too, horrible as they may be, have little glimpses of humanity or large glimpses of humanity. But that is the essential thing to understand. The monster, the Baron, the doctor, I love what Peter Cushing did on the Hammer movies, which he makes him an incredibly magnetic sociopath. And I wanted Victor to be...
Is this the Terence Fisher?
Yeah, the Terence Fisher. He's and all the Frankenstein cycle, he becomes more and more of a villain. And I wanted the creature to be portrayed like it had never been truly portrayed before, and because one of the things that people that didn't know the book that well, they were, why is the creature so articulate? Because that's the way it is in the book. The book is basically Paradise Lost with many parts sewn together, you know, but it is an essential text to the Romantics was Paradise Lost. And I've been studying the Romantics, and I read everything about the Romantics that has, and I prologued and created introductions to the Romantics for other books for decades and decades and decades, and the distillation of that is in the movie. Shelley, I think, is a remarkable achievement that she wrote it in her late teens, the book. She was 18, and the anger that you have when you're 18, which is the anger of being right, the world suffocates after that, you know? The fact that she processes all her miscarriages, all the fact that she feels like an oddity, that she killed her mother, all these things are processed through that book in a way that is magnificent and sincere and heartening. I think that art is biography. If it isn't, don't do it. You know, every time I'm producing somebody, I say, what hurts in this movie? What hurts you in this movie? What are you ashamed to show in this movie about yourself? If they can answer that, then I'll make the movie. I say, what scares you in this movie? What shouldn't you do publicly that is being done in the screen? What do you want to talk about that is difficult? I think that Shelley did all that at an age where people are still solving a way to get to the mall now.
And how do you feel?
Well, a mall in the 80s.
Yeah.
There's nothing in malls anymore.
How do you feel now that it's brought to the screen? Because I know your energy levels, I know how hard you work. And we'll conclude with you talking about the project that you're going to be doing next, if you're able to. But how did it feel once you got it over the line, Frankenstein? Was it a feeling of relief and release, or?
You know, and to become, I'll be candid. I think it was really like you've been gathering little things for a journey, and then you're there. And then you have to repurpose many things. You have to rephrase many things at a very deep level. Even at a subconscious level, you move. And for me, the perfect way is doing this fascinatingly difficult stop-motion movie for adults. A fairy tale for adults, which is the Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. And it's been done without any concession to a family audience. It's been done as a movie that is in stop motion for one reason, the same reason Pinocchio was in stop motion. Because if you do a live action Pinocchio and all of a sudden a puppet walks through, it's uncanny valley. It's a horrible thing that doesn't belong in the same world. If you do a live action movie about an old couple that is crossing a landscape full of trolls and fairies, then it's a special effects and actors. And I wanted all the creatures to be of the same material. And it's going to take us years, and it's incredibly difficult, and it's done because I believe in stop motion as one of the highest art forms of film. And again, the book is what happens when I read Ishiguro. I was coming back from Japan in the 80s, and I read The Remains of the Day. And I said, this guy is me. And that's the movie I would have killed to make The Remains of the Day. I adored that movie. And when I read this book, I said, this is my chance to do that. Because Ishiguro is about everything that is, the characters talk a lot, but what they don't talk about is what the book is about. We talk a lot, but we don't talk about the things that matter in our lives, you know, and regret. He's a master of regret, and he's a master of memory, and that's what the movie is about.
He's a great friend of yours. I mean, when the film career ends, you can come and work for us in advertising, because
I would.
You're advertising everything we've got coming up. Cronenberg. We've got a season coming up curated by Ishiguro called
Trains.
Station to Station, which is such a great title.
It's train movies.
Train movies.
He refuted two that I suggested.
Yeah, he chucked out 3 of mine. So
I said Horror Express. He said it's horrible. I
He
said
told
no,
me
it
it was
is
rubbish. I suggested that.
I said it's really a great movie.
But give him a hard time.
And I said the tall target, the Anthony Mann. He said no, it only happens for a little bit on a train, and then he puts things that are not on a train the whole time.
Well, if you want to break, if you want to,
you call him on that when you see it.
No, you can call him, because I saw a film last night called The Hero by Satyajit Ray, and it's set entirely on a train. And I emailed Ishiguro, and he said, I don't even know it. So
let's-
he's no expert.
I won't pay dinner next time.
Yeah. So, look, we've spoken about your vision. We've spoken about the politics in the films. We've spoken about your mastery of the craft and acting. I'd like to end just by talking about your technical collaborators, because when we were chatting the other night at your fellowship, you told me how much you value the act of collaboration.
Yeah.
And I think on your last 5 or 6 movies, you've worked with Alexander Desplat. Yeah, you've worked
Lauston,
with... Yep, and Kate Hawley,
who we started working on The Hobbit.
Yep, and they come with you on this journey, don't they?
Yeah.
Is it nice having that shorthand? Is it nice having these people in your camp?
Yeah, the only department that I changed a lot is production design. And the rest of the departments I find long relationships with, because I believe that you don't want to go through the basics again unless you are learning something yourself, you know. And with Kate Hawley, he's a complete genius. Dan Lauston I worked with the first time in 1996 on Mimic, and I absolutely fell in love with the guy. And you know, you try to repeat these collaborators over and over. The Guy Davis on the design, concept design. Before we hire anyone, we have about 6 months of me and 6 artists designing and conceptualizing everything as a basis. It's not completely the final, but when a head of department comes in, at least you have 70, 80 drawings and paintings that say, this is the movie, how can we make it, and how can we make it better, you know? Yeah. And Guy Davis is the head of that department. These people are really, they know what I like, they know what I don't like, and they're still fearless. They still can say, I think you should consider this, and I grump and go away, and I come back and I say, well, maybe. You know?
I mean, you mentioned Mimic earlier. The other film that you won't see anywhere else is Guillermo's cut of Mimic, so that's the other one that is...
Yeah, there's not such a beast, really. It's like an ameliorated cut. The original ending was very different. The original sequence was never shot. When I took the job, I told the Weinsteins, I said, I don't want any explosions or guns, and I want the heroes to lose at the end. Of course, those 3 things never happened. I'm not on the final cut. But I managed to stay until the end and finish the movie and release it and see it evaluated quite candidly by the critics. And it was successful enough to have 2 more sequels on video. Which I proceeded to see and say, oh, that's what people think I do. You know? But it was other than the kidnapping of my father, making Mimic for them was the worst experience of my life. And the kidnapping made more sense.
It's unfortunately, that's going to be the note that we end on, Guillermo. But look, I want to thank a few people. I've thanked the projectionist and Justin. I want to thank all the BFI staff, the events team, and the front of house staff who do such an amazing job here. Guillermo's going to be in conversation with our CEO, Ben Roberts, before an introduction to Cronos a bit later on. Guillermo's here all over the weekend, so I know you haven't had a chance to ask questions tonight, but he's doing...
This is his address.
Yeah. But he's going to be doing multiple Q&As, and he's here all weekend. I also want to thank Gary Ungar, Guillermo's longtime associate, and our friends at Netflix, Lisa, Kai, and Richard, for being so supportive of this season. We thank you for coming.
And if I may say something to all of you, the other day in Canada, I said something. I said, I wish you could see your country through my eyes for 3 minutes. I wish you can see the BFI through my eyes for 3 minutes. This is such a beautiful blessing to have. Please, not because it's near you, take it for granted. Protect it, love it, show up. That's why I'm here. I adore it, and this fellowship I want to use to honor. I want to honor the BFI, and I want to say this is now a sanctuary for culture in the world, in a world that is destroying culture. So how lucky are we?
Okay, What a great man, what a lovely man. He's actually also announced at our fellowship he's going to be dedicating some, quite a sizable amount of his archive to the BFI archive. He really is in it for the love.
Thank you.
So, huge round of applause. Standing ovation, Guillermo del Toro.